This is Wednesday, January 27th, writing lesson. So for the next several days, we're going to practice with evidence writing. This is our objective for today. I can support my answers with evidence and elaboration. Our goal with these lessons is to strengthen our yes ma'am responses. We are going to practice using evidence and then elaborating on that evidence. So we've pretty much got the yes ma'am format down for the most part. We know how to restate the question. We know how to use these sentence stems with our evidence. But what we're really going to focus on is not only using evidence from the text, but also using our own words as well when it comes to explaining our answer. So there's so many different sentence stems that we can use when it comes to our evidence sentences in our response. The most common ones are according to the text or the text states, but you can use any of these. So the activity for these lessons are going to be a little different. Instead of reading a text, we're actually going to watch this video and answer a question based on what we learned from the video. So in this first example I'm going to show you, the question I need to answer is, why do we hiccup? I want to restate the question, of course. I want to provide evidence from the video, but again, I'm going to show you how I use my own words in this response as well. So first I'm going to play the video and then I'll show you what my response looked like. So this is titled, Why Do We Hiccup?
Charles Osborne began to hiccup in 1922 after a hog fell on top of him. He wasn't cured until 68 years later and is now listed by Guinness as the world record holder for hiccup longevity. Meanwhile, Florida teen Jennifer Mee may hold the record for the most frequent hiccups, 50 times per minute for more than 4 weeks in 2007. So, what causes hiccups? Doctors point out that a round of hiccups often follows from stimuli that stretch the stomach, like swallowing air or too rapid eating or drinking. Others associate hiccups with intense emotions or our response to them, laughing, sobbing, anxiety, and excitement. Let's look at what happens when we hiccup. It begins with an involuntary spasm or sudden contraction of the diaphragm, the large dome-shaped muscle below our lungs that we use to inhale air. This is followed almost immediately by the sudden closure of the vocal cords and the opening between them, which is called the glottis. The movement of the diaphragm initiates a sudden intake of air, but the closure of the vocal cords stops it from entering the windpipe and reaching the lungs. It also creates the characteristic sound, hic. To date, there is no known function for hiccups. They don't seem to provide any medical or physiological advantage. Why begin to inhale air only to suddenly stop it from actually entering the lungs? Anatomical structures or physiological mechanisms with no apparent purpose present challenges to evolutionary biologists. Do such structures serve some hidden function that hasn't yet been discovered? Or are they relics of our evolutionary past, having once served some important purpose only to persist into the present as vestigial remnants? One idea is that hiccups began many millions of years before the appearance of humans. The lung is thought to have evolved as a structure to allow early fish, many of which lived in warm, stagnant water with little oxygen, to take advantage of the abundant oxygen in the air overhead. When descendants of these animals later moved on to land, they moved from gill-based ventilation to air breathing with lungs. That's similar to the much more rapid changes faced by frogs today as they transition from tadpoles with gills to adults with lungs. This hypothesis suggests that the hiccup is a relic of the ancient transition from water to land. An inhalation that could move water over gills, followed by a rapid closure of the glottis preventing water from entering the lungs. That's supported by evidence which suggests that the neural patterning involved in generating a hiccup is almost identical to to that responsible for respiration in amphibians. Another group of scientists believe that the reflex is retained in us today because it actually provides an important advantage. They point out that true hiccups are found only in mammals, and that they're not retained in birds, lizards, turtles, or any other exclusively air-breathing animals. Further, hiccups appear in human babies long before birth, and are far more common in infants than adults. Their explanation for this involves the uniquely mammalian activity of nursing. The ancient hiccup reflex may have been adapted by mammals to help remove air from the stomach as a sort of glorified burp. The sudden expansion of the diaphragm would raise air from the stomach, while a closure of the glottis would prevent milk from entering the lungs. Sometimes a bout of hiccups will go on, and we try home remedies, sipping continuously from a glass of cold water, holding one's breath, a mouthful of honey or peanut butter, breathing into a paper bag, or being suddenly frightened. Unfortunately, scientists have yet to verify that any one cure works better or more consistently than others. However, we do know one thing that definitely doesn't work.
Okay, so after watching that video, I'm going to answer the question, why do we hiccup? Again, I'm going to follow this yes ma'am format. I'm going to restate the question. I'm going to provide evidence, but you will see that I kind of worded my response in my own way. I did use things that I learned from the story. I used those sentence stems that we talked about on the previous slides, but I made it sound more like myself. So the question is, why do we hiccup? I wrote, people hiccup when their stomach is stretched. So I'm giving an introduction sentence here. I'm restating the question. I'm answering the question as well. According to the video, there's my sentence stem. According to the video, doctors say that swallowing air or eating and drinking too quickly can cause you to hiccup. That is evidence from the video right there. But if you go back to the video, I didn't actually put word for word what the video said. I'm putting it in my own words. The video also stated that certain emotions can cause hiccuping too, like laughing, crying, or excitement. So this is going to be just a little different than when we write yes ma'am responses when we read a story. Because when we have the text in front of us, it's very easy to just take that evidence from the text and copy that into our answer. Here we're going to have to put it into our own words, and we call that paraphrasing. We're still following the yes ma'am format. We're still restating. We're still giving those sentence starters, but we're paraphrasing here. We're putting our answer in our own words while we're still using factual information from the video. So this video here, why are sloths so slow, is linked onto Edulastic. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to watch this video and answer the question using the yes ma'am format. But again, since we're not actually reading a text, your evidence is going to have to be in your own words. The evidence still needs to come from the video, but you're going to paraphrase it. So I will show you what it looks like. The video is linked right onto the question, so that's nice. And the question is up here again, and there's a little reminder. Remember, we need to restate the question, use evidence as well as your own words. Your box to type in is down below. I know this is a little bit new and different, so if there are any questions about this assignment, please let me know. This is what our language arts assignments are going to look like for the next couple of days.